I'm Ashley. I'm an alcoholic.
Ashley.
My sober date is August 3rd, 2016. I do have a sponsor, and thank God my sponsor has a sponsor. And I do work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I do have a home group, and I just say those things because they're very important in my recovery. I'm born and raised here. I was born in Palm Beach Gardens Hospital. I'm just going to give you a little background. I grew up in the 80s. A lot of drugs, a lot of partying. My parents, they partied hard, and they still do sometimes. That's pretty much, you know, the upbringing, if you can just kind of imagine what that's like. Except there's a difference between me and them, and the difference is that they can do it and I can't. So growing up, it was something that I glamorized. It was something that was attractive to me. It was, you know, it was definitely not, you know, a fully godly world. I wasn't raised on religion. I was raised on, you know, work hard, play hard, and, you know, that's basically what I did for my whole life. I did a lot of growing up to and from the Bahamas. That was always a lot of fun. You know, those were some good times. So that's kind of, you know, the scene. I don't remember the first time I drank. I don't remember the first time I did drugs. I was a child. So it was, I have no idea how old I was. Somewhere maybe, and I'm going to guess, between like 5 and 10. So, you know, growing up, there was definitely some sexual trauma in my story. I think it was so traumatizing, I don't remember it. It was something that had to be told to me. I do remember at about 5 years old praying to something that, you know, I didn't want to be here. This place wasn't for me. And I don't know exactly like what I was going through in that time. I mean, I know there was like, you know, some sexual trauma and things like that and a lot of partying, but like, I don't really know the extent of where, you know, what I was feeling, or why I was feeling the way I was feeling at that age. But I do remember praying to something, and just like having a conversation, you know, that I didn't want to be here. And that was pretty much my prayer life all the way to my last day using. So I think they're fighting. So, you know, I do remember at some point in my my drinking and drugging, maybe I was like 13. I mean, it was at a young age. It became, you know, to where I was using it against my will, where, you know, and at this age, I don't even really understand what's going on, but I do know that I used around the clock, and that was my drive. That was my motivation to get up. You know, it wasn't like go to school. You know, I am a dropout. Like, I didn't make it through school. I don't even really remember what grade I dropped out in. There's a lot of fog in my story, and you know, for that I thank my God for. So there, you know, there are times in throughout my sobriety where like things will, you know, I'll revisit, things will come up for me, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, I just have a really bad memory. So, you know, I remember at a very young age not having control of if I was going to do it or if I wasn't going to do it. if how much I was putting in my body, what I was putting in my body, it didn't really matter. I think I was just like trying to, escape a reality in a manner which, like, I really had no idea what I was playing with when I was doing it. I was just doing it. I do remember, maybe like, in my early teens, saying to myself, like, yo, tonight I'm not doing this. Like, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna get this money, and, like, I'm gonna go home. And it just never fucking happened that way. It never happened that way. I didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, so, like, money was also a huge part of my addiction. It was, a huge part of my drive. It was like my I had arrived moments. When I was getting money, like, I had arrived. And if I wasn't getting money, I was figuring out a way to get some money. So, I started very young, in the nightclubs and in sales and in drug sales and in sex sales, and, not of age, and just kind of doing whatever I had to do to get money, and at the time it was for sure an addiction, because it was never enough. It was like this grind, like this, like, I gotta get more, and like, and hand in hand with the drugs and the alcohol. But eventually the alcohol kind of like went away. As I progressed into, like, harder drugs, I had noted it was just the next high. So, I had a lot of time, where that went by in my life, where it was like the same day over and over and over again. And the first time I was removed from drugs and alcohol, I was underage. I was 17 years old. Well, I went to, like, a mental institution but it was only for, like, a couple days when I was real young. But at 17, I did my first when I got locked up for the first time, where, I was removed from dope. And, again, like, I was a kid. I didn't realize the severity of what I was dealing with, but, like, I did lose my mind a little bit, I wasn't prepared for that level of lockup, you know what I mean? And, ended up realizing at a young age that, like, that was not, the place that I wanted to be. But, however, like, I still wanted to use, you know what I mean? Like, when I got out, I was getting out, and I was getting out to get high. There was no, like, oh, I'm going to try to be sober. And that was repetitive for a long time, too. A lot of jail stays, all the way up to my sober date in 2016. I had a case. There wasn't really a time that went by where I did not have a case, where I was not laying down. So, but in those times is when I really started to realize my obsession. Because, like, now I'm removed from the dope, and, like, I can't stop thinking about it. Like, it's in my dreams. I'm having visions of, like, these scenes, and, like, it's all I can think about. It's like, and the best way I can explain it is, like, I don't know if I've ever truly been in love with someone before, but I would imagine this would, someone that's, like, obsessed over, like, in a relationship, where they're just, like, constantly nonstop thinking about the other person, or, like, that was my dope. You know what I mean? Like, when I left dope, I had to grieve it like it was the love of my life. And for a very long time, it was my solution. And, you know, giving that up and like getting out of my comfort zone where, you know, which was basically my blanket, you know, for everything. It really wasn't something that I was trying to do. I was trying to die high. And, you know, so I was able to succeed in plenty of, you know, overdoses and things like that, and coming back, and like, why the fuck did I come back here? And, you know, that whole tug of war thing. And the first time I got sober, it was 2008. It was Father's Day. I overdosed on cocaine. I was IVing cocaine, and I OD'd. And what an OD looks like on cocaine basically is like a seizure, right? So I'm flatlined and I'm seizing. I'm fighting for my life, fighting to come back to life. And when I came back to, I really didn't know who I was or what the fuck was going on. And you know, that was a God moment for me. You know, that was one of those moments where God came through and was like, hey, I'm going to show you the way. And I ended up in a state-run detox facility. Willingly, didn't know my name, but I knew I wanted to go there. And I got a sponsor, and I did my steps, and I think I was like 20 years old. And you know, it was rough, you know. It was real hard for me to understand things and comprehend things, and I couldn't read real well, and I had to like listen to tapes from the big book. You know, and I started sponsoring girls, and I, you know, I can say that at the time it was like to the best of my ability, and I feel that in my, you know, in my soul, like I gave it what I had to give. At the time it was. However, I lacked a connection with something greater than myself. It was just an area of my sobriety that, you know, it just wasn't really there. You know, like plenty of attempts to it. I was more invested, you know, one-on-one with like another girl and getting her through the work than I really was in my own recovery and taking the time to like sit down and do prayer and meditation and build a relationship with something that has clearly saved my life over and over and over. And I really didn't, you know, I don't know if I had the capacity to really understand that, and I would be lying if I told you I knew why I relapsed, because I don't know. But I fucking relapsed, and I chose to use. The pain was great enough to where, you know, I chose to run to my solution, which at the time I ran to alcohol, very quickly ended up into that, you know, the same routine. And I spent the next 8 years of my life in a very demonic world. You know, it was definitely brought to like the next level. When I got sober, I got this time around when I came through and I got sober, my sponsor, you know, I got to thank God I had a girl coming in to sponsor me while I was in treatment. So I hadn't like hit the gate yet, you know what I mean? And I was scared. I was fucking terrified of myself. I wasn't trying to do this again. I did this. It wasn't going to work for me. I gave it my all the first time. You know what I mean? Like all these fucking lies that I told myself that kept me sick for 8 fucking years. And when I tell you it kept me sick, I stood on the corner for 8 years of my life and, you know, did anything and everything for a bag of dope, you know. So every car ride I got into could have been my last car ride, and I knew that, and I didn't give a fuck, you know. I was very sick from those lies, you know. And, you know, like I said, thank God for my sponsor. She was very angelic, younger than me. She came through and she took me through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't know, you know, in that time frame, by you know, the 12th step and having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I had definitely awoken to something. And I didn't come in not believing. I wasn't you know, I wasn't agnostic, I wasn't atheist, I wasn't any of that. I knew I knew I had something greater than me because of my experience on life. You know what I mean? And being here and making it through so many like failed suicide attempts and, or, you know, indirect suicide attempts, or, you know, all the hospital stays, just too much, you know what I mean? Being shot and like just getting up and like walking away, and like random situations that I had been in where I knew that it was definitely not me that kept me, you know, alive. Most of my little friends that I had, they've been murdered, you know what I mean? And that's just the truth. There's no other fucking explanation that I can come up with to say like why I'm still here, other than there's something way greater than myself. And I can say that the dope was way greater than me, and so is the God of my understanding. So if I, you know, and I didn't fully understand that it was like a spiritual malady and that spirituality was my solution. I just ran to the dope, you know what I mean? But in doing the work and finding your own personal spirituality and your own personal inner strength, your own love, you know, it's way more rewarding and powerful than any hit of dope or shot of dope that I've ever done. And that's just the truth. You know, today it's not my go-to. It's not something that, you know, I can tell you. It's not something that is, you know, my first, when shit fucking hits the fan, because it will, you know what I mean? This is life. I'm not like, hey, like, I need to go get high. Like, that's just not, that's not my experience. My experience is like, I talk to a higher power some days all day long, you know, and in talking, you know, we have to be able to get quiet and listen. And you'll know it's you, and you'll know it's not you. Because these are thoughts that Ashley would never normally tell herself. Ashley tells herself to go get high, you know. And I knew it was real because I had it a little bit the first time I got sober. And I remember coming in this last time and praying to God. I was like, because I knew I needed a lot of God. There was like no doubt in that. I remember praying to God to like let me hear him, because my fucking mind was so loud I couldn't hear anything except for that fucking like insidious obsession over and over. Just like the fucking insanity. And then, you know, you get to your steps and it's like step 1, like I'm totally fucked and I have to swallow the pill that I have tried every which way to be a successful heroin and crackhead. Heroin addicts and crackhead, right? And it didn't, like, I'm not good at it, you know. I can't drink successfully. If I drink, all the above. And I have the inability to control it. I use against my will. So like I lose the choice whether if I'm going to continue or not. So, you know, in the literature it talks about the phenomenon of craving, and that's basically what that was, what that looked like for me. And then it goes on to the progression of the obsession in the mind. You know, and that I can't manage. Like, and it's not if I can like manage my bills. It's like how I feel inside. Like I can't manage that. Like I can't manage when I do get high, the amount of dope that I do. I'm like the fucking, like a transformer, like a machine, you know. I have no control. And then, you know, it goes on into the second step, which is actually a very fucking huge step.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I mean, okay. I don't either. Wow. No. Did you get that? Yeah, no. It talks about being restored to sanity, and in that moment of the insanity, of the obsession, and like, you know, hearing this, that, you know, have faith and have hope that this thing greater than yourself is going to restore you to sanity. I don't even know what that looks like. You know, I'm like, all right, yeah. But now, like in hindsight, it's like, it's one of my most powerful steps. It's like, I don't have that anymore. And if you've truly ever experienced the obsession after quitting drinking or using or whatever, you'll know what I'm talking about. For that to just be gone is like a blessing in itself, and like, I'll sign the papers now, like, I'll take that, you don't have to give me anything else, you know. But there's so much more that comes with the steps, you know. You go to the turning point and you choose if I'm going to go on to, you know, using like this and die like this, or if I'm going to pick up these spiritual tools and accept spiritual help and truly try to live it, not just like read about it, but like embed it into your being, and building that relationship and that connection. And, you know, today I bow to my Creator, like, with respect and loyalty, and you know, I could never repay the connection that I have. I could never repay that, you know. There's no price tag, you know what I mean? And then we do our fourth and fifth. We look at ourselves. It's not about the other people that hurt us, really. It's about the people that we hurt. Because people are going to be people. People are going to do that till the end of times, you know. People are going to disappoint you. They're going to let you down. Things are going to happen. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to, you know, resentments might come up. You know, things are going to happen. Relationships are going to go bad. It's more or less my part in correcting myself and looking at self and seeing what I've done and looking at my own inventory and discarding of it properly, because it no longer serves me. You know, it's like giving too much power away. And then following, you know, you also look at 6 and 7, which is your character defects. These two steps go hand in hand. Again, you're looking at your defect of character without the solution, drugs and alcohol. Now what do I look like? You know what I mean? I mean, I even looked like, it's not that I didn't look like an asshole then, but, you know, it's correcting in prayer, you know, because this is God's job to remove our defects of character. It's just being willing. And in my story, I was embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like, I looked back at myself and, you know, I was on Front Street for years, and, like, you know, I'm from here, my parents are from here, their parents are from here, and, like, I'm on the fucking Channel 12 news, and I'm on prostitution stings, and I'm running the police over, and I'm, like, doing all these crazy things, and it's embarrassing. Like, once you, like, sober up and look back at it and, like, really start to actually give a little bit, you know, have, like, a couple fucks to give, like, it's like, oh my God, you know? I was embarrassed of myself, and I was desperate to be a better person. At this point in my recovery, I was fully ready and willing, you know, to give these things to God and to accept His help and correction, because, like, I knew that I needed a lot of it. And a lot of listening, a lot of meditation, a lot of listening. And then 8 and 9, you know, and that's where, like, a lot of my miracles happen. That's where I got my driver's license back after signing it away 32 times in court for a lighter plea. I also lost it because I ran the cop over, and I ran another guy over, and they were like, you're never gonna drive, ever. I have a valid Florida driver's license. I do drive. I do have a car. I actually just paid it off last week, which is kind of crazy. And it's the amends. 8 and 9 is the amends. It's where, like, you really put the work in. That's where the action is. It's listening to the people that you've harmed, and, being willing to and ready to right your wrongs. And these don't always feel good. You know what I mean? I definitely contributed to the deterioration of my family's health, and some of those things are irreversible, and those, that's something that, I live in that amend, especially like with my mom. I was actually at the doctor's today with my mom. I took her to the neurologist. She's developed epilepsy, nerve-induced epilepsy, and I ran with my mom. I got high with my mom. My mom saw pretty much everything. I didn't hide anything from my mom. She saw me out there. Everybody fucking saw me out there, and I think that that definitely did something to her. So I have I have a huge living amend with her. She did stop drinking. She came to me about 3 years ago. I took her to the emergency room to come off of alcohol, and she withdrew from alcohol. So my mom hasn't had alcohol in about 3 years. And that is like a huge reward for me, because like I felt like I scarred her forever. Like she was like, there was no way she was gonna come off the bottle, and then Pops. So like Pops has got me over here doing his retirement. He's working the shit out of me. I'm doing his 401k, his fucking severance, like all this. Like he's giving me the account numbers, the social, and I'm like, what like happened? Like, this is crazy. Because like I wasn't a lot around him, you know what I mean? I definitely broke his heart. And it took probably like a good 4 years of my sobriety for him to like understand that I was like sober. Like I didn't do anything, like nothing. Like, he didn't, it was like I had to be like in his face for him to really understand. So I've been blessed to be in his face a couple times in my sobriety, and it's definitely sunk in, and he understands now. But it took years. Like he did not understand. He was like, it was just maybe denial, foreign to him. I don't know. Maybe he just never thought it would ever happen, but it did. It happened. We all thought it would never happen, but it does. It does happen. It can, and to the most hopeless, you don't have to be that hopeless, but it can happen for anybody. It's getting stopped. It's getting removed from it. Giving yourself that time that you need, and then beginning that to clear out mentally, to start the work, and in putting the work in, it's daily. You get to 10, 11, and 12, and for me, my 10th step, my 10, 11, and 12, 10th step is like, okay, I gotta check myself, basically, in today's language. Like I gotta check myself. And I got to see like who I owe an amend to for today, or if at all, I got to see what fears I got going on, if there's any resentments, if I owe an apology, but to be careful not to drift into morbid reflection, because then we are unuseful, you know. 11 is it's my favorite. It's probably my favorite prayer or step. Prayer and meditation. It's where I get to sit with my dude. You know, like I said before, my Creator, and show Him, you know, my faithfulness and my loyalty, and listen, and get quiet, and center the mind and the body, and you know, I have practiced that this whole sobriety. You know, my sober date is my sober date of illegal money, drugs, all the goods, you know. But that's a huge part of my story, is to be able to say out loud, you know, I haven't made any dirty money since 2016, because that was a huge part of my disease. And then, you know, and then helping others in your 12th step and just giving back. And for me, it's very, very important for me to understand the 12th step, because I can overdo the 12th step. I can get resentful. I can get overwhelmed. I can get, you know, where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's taking too much. I'm miserable. So I have to find like that medium and that balance. And is where I'm at with the 12th step, is I like to have one sponsee in the work at a time, and I'm available. I'm not, you know, I'm not thinned out. It's not, you know, I'm here for that person, and I don't have like 5 to 10 people pulling at me in different directions, because I'm unuseful, and I'm robbing them of what the program really has to offer. Wow, that was it's a big bug. So like, you know, that's a huge part of, you know, doing for me a 12 step, a thorough 12 step, is, you know, making sure that, you know, I am useful and I am available, and also in that, I get to experience my feeling, because, you know, and everybody's different, and, you know, for me, I found that I'm somebody that feels through you more than I feel through me. So like, I could tell you a whole bunch of crazy shit, and, you know, my therapist is like, is everything all right? Like, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm fine. What the fuck, you know? But when I hear it from another girl, like, no, none of that's all right. You know what I mean? And like, A, I can say like, that's not all right, and B, like, you know, feel it. You know, experience the feeling with the person. And that's huge for me, because there's a lot of things that I have suppressed, a lot of feelings that I have, you know, tucked, that need to be addressed. And when God sees fit, He definitely sends me the right one, and we work through these things together. And also, I still have a sponsor that has a sponsor, you know, that I can always fall back on. You know, so there's a lot of beauty in the 12th step, you know what I mean? In that 12th step, that's like where where the magic happens. And you know, one day you just look up and you're like, damn, like, I don't know, it's crazy. To say, you know, in August, I'll have 6 years sober from drugs and alcohol, and like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to say it out loud. But you know, at the same time, it's weird to say that like that used to be me, you know, because it's so not okay anymore, you know. Yeah, I do, me personally, because I do, you know, improve my quality of life, I do seek outside help as well as the 12 steps. I do see a therapist, I do see a psychiatrist, and I do my best to, you know, be a good employee, to be a good and loving daughter. I do have my moments, and then a huge part too, at about 2 years sober, I got into a relationship. I'm no longer in this relationship. However, it's a huge part of my story because I was with this person for 4 years, and he had children with 4 different women, and I had very good relationships with all 4 of them, those women, and the dynamic, the fact that I was ever even in a relationship, like, it was weird, because, like, I wasn't doing that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm good by myself, thank you. But, you know, it was time to, like, receive love, and not, you know, and give and receive love, and learn how, like, that goes, and then to be around someone's child, and to be trusted as, like, a mother role in these little children was, like, another beautiful part of my story that I would have never told you was ever going to be a part of my story. You know, it was a learning experience that, and a spiritual experience that I wouldn't give away for the world. You know, mind you, like, I'm not still with this person, but there was so much love there with those kids, you know what I mean? Like, I've never experienced that. And to have, like, all the parents on board and just, like, loving these kids and working with each other and communicating and, like, learning how to be in situations that you might not really want to be in, but, like, you're in, and, like, actually find that, like, it's not all that bad, and find yourself having good fucking times. Like, I would have never thought, like, you know what I mean? It was a really beautiful thing to experience, and you know, these are just things in my recovery that, you know, I went back to school, I graduated, you know, things I just never thought I was gonna do in life, you know, like get my driver's license. That was crazy. But, you know, I owe it all to the program, the people that are in the program, that you guys, you know, the people with 1 day picking up a white chip, the people with however many years picking up whatever they're picking up, like, everyone in there, you know, has a special place, and we're all built for somebody, you know, we're all built for that, you know, that person, and then, you know, my God. So I just have to throw that last part in there. I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing.